For 3 years of marriage, I had never once shown up at my wife's company. She said she was afraid it would affect her authority, so out of respect for her, I willingly played the role of an invisible man. That day, I wanted to give her a surprise. I had bought flowers in advance and quietly went to her company to pick her up after work. The moment the elevator doors opened, I saw her arm in arm with a young man, smiling brightly as she spoke to a group of executives. "Let me introduce everyone to my new husband, who is also the new vice president of our company." A wave of congratulatory applause echoed through the hallway. The flowers in my hand fell to the ground, yet no one noticed me. I didn't get angry, nor did my breathing quicken. I just calmly pushed open the conference room door and said one sentence to the room full of people: "The 20 billion I invested in this company is now completely void." Effective immediately, the smile on her face began to crumble, piece by piece, like shattered glass, and that new husband of hers, his legs were already starting to tremble. 01 For 3 years of marriage, I have never once shown up at my wife Su Meng's company. She said she was afraid it would affect her authority. I respected her and willingly chose to remain an invisible presence. I thought it was an unspoken understanding between us. It is a manifestation of love today. I want to give her a surprise anniversary. I bought her favorite blue irises in advance and quietly went to her company to pick her up after work. She single-handedly founded Dream Sea Technology, which has a market value of tens of billions. I am very proud of her. The elevator doors opened with a ding on the top floor. The hallway was packed with people, all of them executives of the company. They were gathered around two individuals. One was my wife, Su Meng, the other was a man younger and more handsome than me. Su Meng was holding the man's arm, smiling brightly and boldly. It was a smile I had never seen on her before. She cleared her throat, her voice dripping with a cloying, showy sweetness. "Let me introduce everyone to my new husband, Xiao Ran. He is also our company's new vice president." The corridor immediately erupted in a flurry of warm and flattering applause. "Congratulations, Executive Su, young and promising. Deputy General Xiao is truly a perfect match with Executive Su. Beauty and talent." I stand at the elevator entrance, the blue iris in my hand falls to the ground. Petals shatter all over the floor. No one notices me. I, along with a speck of dust, was drowned out by their hypocritical applause. I looked at Su Meng. She was wearing the haute couture suit I had photographed for her in Paris last month, her makeup flawless, radiant and dazzling. She didn't even glance toward the elevator. In her eyes, there would be no one in that direction. The man named Xiao Ran was basking in the admiration of the crowd. He lowered his head and whispered something intimately into Su Meng's ear. Su Meng's cheeks flushed with a rosy hue. "My heart feels no pain, only a cold, sinking numbness that reaches the bottom. So it turns out, I am not just invisible, I am also a replaced, expired old part. I am not angry, I haven't even quickened my breath. I simply stride forward, step by step, through the scattered petals, past those executives who look right through me." I pushed open the door to the adjacent conference room. It was empty, but the large floor-to-ceiling windows faced the hallway. I walked to the head of the large conference table and pressed the speakerphone button. I dialed my chief lawyer. The phone was answered almost instantly. "Mr. Liu." My voice wasn't loud, but through the speaker, it was clear enough for everyone in the hallway outside to hear. "Lawyer Zhou," I said. "I, Liu Zhe, in my capacity as the sole holder of Genesis Capital, hereby announce." The applause and flattery in the corridor seemed to be paused. Silence fell instantly. All eyes, through the glass, were fixed on me, including Su Meng's. The smile on her face froze. I looked at her and continued to speak, word by word, calmly. "The 20 billion I invested in Dream Sea Technology is hereby declared entirely void. I invoke the collapse of trust clause in the valuation adjustment agreement, and I demand immediate liquidation." The smile on Su Meng's face shattered like broken glass, flaking off piece by piece. That new husband, named Xiao Ran, was already trembling. The entire corridor was deathly silent. Only my calm voice echoed through the air. Su Meng finally snapped out of it. She shook off Xiao Ran's hand and rushed toward the conference room like a madwoman. Her high heels struck the floor, emitting a piercing screech. "Liu Zhe." She rushed up to me, her beautiful eyes filled with shock and disbelief. "Are you crazy? Do you know what you're saying?" I hung up the phone and stood up, look her in the eye. This was the first time in 3 years that I faced her like this. In her company, of course I know. I looked into her eyes, where there was no longer any love, only fear and anger. "Mr. Su, the game is over." She still wanted to say something, but I no longer had the interest to even look at her. I turned around and walked toward the door, leaving her with my back. "Liu Zhe," she screamed behind me. "You stop right there." 02 I did not stop. I didn't even look back. Her voice, once a melody I would have given everything to protect, now, it only sounds grating behind Him came the flustered voices of Xiao Ran and the group of executives. Mr. Su, please calm down. What is going on here? Genesis Capital, 20 billion, Mr. Su, who exactly is he? Su Meng ignored them. She chased after me and grabbed my arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong, her nails almost digging into my flesh. Lu Jie, what exactly are you trying to prove? Her voice was low, carrying a threatening tone. This is the company, don't interfere with my work, we'll talk about it when we get home. Go home. I looked at her face, slightly distorted with anger. Is there still a home between us? Let go. My voice was icy cold. She probably had never heard me speak to her in such a tone before and was taken aback for a moment. I took the chance to pull my arm back. Mr. Su, I deliberately used this form of address. I don't think there's anything left to talk about between us. My lawyer will contact you. With that, I pressed the elevator's down button. Su Meng's expression completely changed. She finally realized that I wasn't joking or throwing a tantrum. I'm serious. The anger in her eyes faded, replaced by panic. Asia. She used the nickname she only ever used when it was just the two of us, her voice softening. Listen to me. It's not what you think. Xiao Ran, the elevator doors opened. I stepped inside. She tried to follow, but I reached out and blocked her. President Su, have some dignity. My gaze shifted past her to Xiao Ran, who stood behind her, pale and at a loss. Don't let your new husband see a joke. Su Meng's body froze. I let go and pressed the close button. The elevator doors slowly closed, shutting out her face filled with shock, humiliation, and resentment. Just before the doors fully closed, I saw her silently scream two words at me. The shape of her mouth formed the words, "How dare you?" The elevator descended smoothly. My reflection appeared on the metallic walls, calm as a stagnant pool. I took out my phone and dialed my assistant. Xiao Zhou, Mr. Lu. Xiao Zhou, activate level 1. Contingency plan. Yes, Xiao Zhou had no doubts and responded immediately. All asset liquidation procedures are ready. Lawyer Zhou's team is en route to Dream Sea Technology. Should I freeze all joint accounts belonging to you and Mr. Su now? All of them, I said, including all my supplementary cards she has access to, and the trust fund. Understood. Also, I paused, then added, check out someone named Xiao Ran, the new vice president of Dream Sea Technology. Xiao Zhou on the other end of the phone was silent for 2 seconds. His voice carried a cautious anger. Mr. Lu, President Su, do as I say. I interrupted him. Send all his information, from his birth to the present, including all social relations within 3 generations, to my email within 2 hours. Yes, Mr. Lu. The elevator arrived at the first floor. I walked out of the building, and the sunlight outside was a bit dazzling. My phone vibrated once. It was a text message from Su Meng. Lu Jie, if you dare touch a single cent of mine, I'll make you regret it for the rest of your life. Immediately after, another message followed. I'm warning you, stop your foolish actions right now, otherwise, you'll face the consequences. I deleted the text message expressionlessly. I blocked her number. A black Bentley glided silently to a stop in front of me. Xiao Zhou had made the arrangements in advance. I got into the car and said to the driver, take me to Cloud Mountain Villa. It was my private villa. And Su Meng had been married for 3 years without even knowing it existed. She didn't even have a key to the place. The car smoothly drove away from the city center. My phone rang again, this time from an unknown number. I didn't answer. The caller persisted. I simply turned off my phone. The world was clean. I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes. There was no anger in my mind, no sorrow, only a cold, terrifyingly lucid clarity. 3 years of marriage, like a meticulously choreographed play. She was the director, and also the lead actress, and I, merely the behind-the-scenes investor who provided all the funding, yet couldn't even have my name credited. Now, the investor is pulling out. This scene should come to an end now. Halfway through the drive, my phone, which I had turned off, popped up an emergency call request through the car's system. It was my assistant, Xiao Zhou. He only uses this privilege for the highest level emergencies. I answered the call. Mr. Lu. Xiao Zhou's voice was more serious than ever before. Speak, Mr. Lu. General Manager Su. Xiao Zhou took a deep breath, as if weighing his words. Just now, right after you announced the withdrawal of investment, she immediately used the authorization from an overseas account to access 50 million from your private account. The purpose was emergency public relations and stabilizing shareholders. I opened my eyes. Outside the car window, the cityscape sped backward. Good, this was no longer betrayal, this is theft. 03, got it. My voice carried no inflection, as if it weren't 50 million, but just 5,000. On the other end of the phone, Xiao Zhou grew anxious. Mr. Lu, that fund was drawn from your private emergency reserve authorization, with MS Su as the second-in-line emergency contact. According to the agreement, she can only access it if you are unreachable or incapacitated. This is a violation of the rules. We can report it to the police immediately. No, I gently declined, let her use it, Mr. Liu. Xiaozhou was very puzzled. An aunt, when the house is about to collapse, must be allowed to carry some rice back home. I look out the window. Only after the money is spent can the accusation be substantiated. What I want isn't for her to return the money, I want her to leave with nothing. Xiaozhou fell silent. A few seconds later, he said in a tone of near reverence, I understand. Mr. Liu, the liquidation process will continue. I issued the final order. From now on, keep a close eye on every transaction of Dream Sea Technology, and that Xiao Ran, I want all his information. After hanging up the phone, the car fell silent once more. Bentley smoothly drove into the gate of Cloud Top Villa. This is the real affluent area of Jiangcheng, with strict security and each house featuring its own unique landscape. My villa is located at the best spot on the mountaintop, offering a panoramic view of the entire city of Jiangcheng. I opened the door using my fingerprint. The house was spotless, with someone coming in to clean every week. The style was minimalism, which I favored, cold, hard lines, and a palette of black, white, and gray. It was completely different from our home, which Su Meng had decorated to be warm and sweet. I took off my coat and threw it onto the sofa. I poured myself a glass of ice water. The ice cubes clinked against the glass, making a crisp sound. It also struck my heart. For the past 3 years, I have hardly lived here at all. I live in a spacious 180 square meter apartment in the city center, playing the role of an ordinary husband with a 9-to-5 job and a decent income. I play along with Su Meng's character setting. She tells her friends and family that I work as a mid-level manager at a foreign enterprise. My annual salary is 1,000,000 yuan, neither too high nor too low. It perfectly suits her. A self-made entrepreneurial goddess, it won't make her lose face, nor will it overshadow her brilliance. I never called her out on it. I thought she was just highly career-driven and cared about her reputation. I love her and am willing to accommodate her. I concealed the most crucial asset management company under my name, Genesis Capital. Using the name of a shell investment company, I injected startup capital into her Dream Sea Technology and later invested astronomical sums anonymously in subsequent rounds of financing. 20 billion, enough to buy 10 Dream Sea Techs. I lifted her up to the clouds, but they're in the clouds. She took another man's arm and kicked me down. Ridiculous, how ridiculous. I finished the ice water in my glass and turned on the home theater in the villa. The huge screen lit up, but instead of a movie, it displayed dozens of split-screen surveillance feeds. The chairman's office of Menghai Technology, the conference room, the finance department, and Su Meng's private lounge. These are the highest privileges I possess as the largest anonymous investor. She didn't know. She had always believed that the mysterious, unseen major shareholder was merely an overseas capital that admired her talent. On the screen, Dream Sea Technology had descended into chaos. Su Meng was frantically making phone calls in her office. Her expression was fierce, a stark contrast to the elegant and composed goddess she usually appeared to be. Investigate, dig into the background of Genesis Capital for me. What do you mean you can't find anything? A bunch of useless fools. Hold steady, shareholders. Tell them it's just a technical adjustment. Meanwhile, the man named Xiao Ran was pacing restlessly nearby. Like a startled rabbit. Meng, what do we do? That Lu Jie, who exactly is he? How is he connected to Genesis Capital? Su Meng suddenly turned around and slapped him across the face. Shut up, she roared. What right do you have to question me now? Xiao Ran held his face, too afraid to speak. I watched the scene, a cold sneer curling at the corners of my mouth. Is this the new husband she chose? A good-for-nothing who has nothing but a youthful face. He can't even handle this much pressure. Just then, my private phone rang. It was an unfamiliar local number. I hesitated for a moment, then answered. On the other end of the line came a sharp yet familiar female voice. It's my mother-in-law, Zhou Mailan. Lu Jie, have you lost your mind? Do you want to ruin Meng? Her voice seemed like it was about to pierce my eardrums. I moved the phone a bit farther away. Mom, is something wrong? My tone was very calm. You still call me Mom. I don't have a son-in-law like you, Zhou Mailan roared. On the phone, my daughter built her company through hard work, and you withdraw your investment just like that? What are you up to? Have you always resented her for being more successful than you? I didn't argue with her, I simply asked calmly. Did she tell you what she did at the company today? There was silence on the other end of the phone. Clearly, Su Meng had only mentioned my withdrawal of investment, but failed to mention that she had publicly announced she had a new husband. A few seconds later, Zhou Mailan's voice came through again, but with noticeably less force. Between husband and wife, what can't be resolved through calm discussion? Meng is young and has a bit of a temper. As a grown man, can't you just give her some leeway? Go to the company right now and apologize to Meng, reinvest that capital or whatever it is for me. Apologize? I laughed. Mom, the mortgage on the house you're living in right now, I'm the one paying it every month. The money for Your brother's son, Sumeng's uncle, to study abroad was paid by me, and the 800,000 for your heart bypass surgery last year was also covered by me. With each sentence I spoke, the breathing on the other end of the phone grew more rapid. By the time I finished, she was already speechless. I continued, I'm not settling scores with you. I just want to remind you of one thing. I let her have her way because I loved her. Now, I don't love her anymore, so why should I still give in to her? After speaking, I hung up the phone directly. I knew that Sumeng's family was her Achilles heel, as well as the reputation she valued most. This war had only just begun. On the screen, the door to Sumeng's office was pushed open. Her secretary ran in, her face filled with panic. President Su, something terrible has happened. A group of people has arrived downstairs. They claim to be the asset liquidation team sent by Attorney Zhou. They also brought a court execution order. Sumeng's body suddenly swayed. She steadied herself against the table to keep from falling. For the first time, a real, undeniable fear appeared on her face. 04, the top floor of Dream C Technology, had completely become a joke. Lawyer Zhou, my most in corporate lawyer, a perpetually stern man nearly 50, led his elite team like a precise scalpel, slicing through the gaudy exterior of Dream C Technology. Mr. Su, according to Clause 11, Section 3 of the Valuation Adjustment Mechanism agreement you signed with the anonymous investor, i.e., my client, Mr. Liu Zhe. The breach of trust clause. Lawyer Zhou's voice was not loud, but every word was clear, amplified throughout the entire floor by the miniature speaker held by his assistant. All employees, regardless of their rank, stopped what they were doing, craning their necks to watch the scene unfold as if it were a play. This clause is automatically triggered when you commit a serious breach of marital fidelity and attempt to tie company assets to the interests of a new, illicit partner. Lawyer Zhou adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses, his gaze behind the lenses sharp as a blade. Investors have the unilateral right to announce the withdrawal of all their investments and demand an immediate liquidation of the company's assets, in order to protect their personal assets from being harmed by your illegal actions. You're talking nonsense. Sumeng pointed at Lawyer Zhou, trembling with anger. I did not. Xiaoran is just my friend. You are the ones twisting my words maliciously. Friend. A faint, almost imperceptible trace of mockery curled at the corner of Lawyer Zhou's lips. A friend whom you publicly declared as your new husband at the company's annual meeting and directly appointed as vice president. Mr. Su, do you take everyone for fools, or do you treat the law as a joke? A wave of suppressed laughter rippled through the crowd. Sumeng's face instantly turned from red to pale, and then to a sickly green. This was the business empire she had built with her own hands, and these were the employees she was most proud of. Yet at this moment, she was like a clown, ruthlessly put on public display for judgment. Xiao Ran, standing beside her, had long been so terrified that his legs went weak. He tried to hide behind the crowd, but was seamlessly blocked by Zhou Lawyer's assistant and two 1.90 tall black-suited bodyguards. He had become another comical figure on stage. Unable to exit. Security, where's the security? Sumeng finally broke down and began to scream. Throw all these people who have broken into my home out. Several security guards rushed over upon hearing the commotion, but as soon as they saw the court enforcement order with the bright red official seal in Lawyer Zhou's hand, they immediately deflated like pricked balloons, standing rooted to the spot, not daring to move. Just then, an even shriller voice came from the elevator entrance. Sumeng, you shameless bitch. My mother-in-law, Zhou Mainland, came charging at me like a cannonball. She had clearly just gotten out of a taxi, her hair disheveled and her face brimming with rage. She rushed up to Sumeng, didn't even glance around, and slapped her hard across the face. Smack. The sound was sharp and loud. The entire floor fell silent. Mom, what are you doing? Sumeng held her face, looking at her mother in disbelief. What am I doing? I'll beat you to death, you shameless thing. Zhou Mainland pointed at Sumeng's nose and cursed loudly. What did I just tell you? I told you to go apologize to Liu Zhe. And you, what are you doing here? Now it's all over. They're going to withdraw their investment, the house is gone, your uncle's money is going to be taken back. Are you satisfied? Zhou Mainland's words carried an enormous amount of information. The expressions in the eyes of the surrounding employees instantly became even more dramatic. So, this lofty entrepreneurial goddess not only had an extramarital affair but also owed her current success to her husband's money, and even her own family relied on their son-in-law for support. You've ruined our whole family, you jinx. Zhou Mainland plopped down on the ground, starting to throw a tantrum, rolling around, slapping her thighs, and wailing. How could I have given birth to such an ungrateful thing like you? You turned down a perfectly good golden bachelor, only to go out and find some pretty boy. Now look, our whole family is going to have to drink the northwest wind with I sat in the villa at Yunding Mountain Villa, watching this farce unfold on the surveillance screen. There was no expression on her face. Su Meng, aren't you the one who cares most about your reputation? Aren't you the one who loves playing the role of that independent, powerful, and elegant goddess? Now, I will tear apart everything you care about most, piece by piece, in front of everyone. Does this taste good? On the screen, Su Meng, under the crying and scolding of her mother and the pointing fingers of the employees, finally could not bear it. Her vision went black, and she fell straight back. 05 Su Meng fainted. The scene became even more chaotic. Xiao Ren hurriedly tried to help her up, but was shoved aside by Zhou Meilan. Get lost, you vixen, you jinx. She pointed at Xiao Ran's nose and scolded, it's all your fault. If you hadn't seduced my daughter, how could our family have ended up like this? I watched the man named Xiao Ran on the screen, being berated by a middle-aged woman until he was utterly humiliated, yet he couldn't even utter a word in his own defense, trembling uncontrollably. Pathetic, he didn't even have the courage to protect his own woman. My phone vibrated. It was an email from my assistant, Xiao Zhou. The subject line read, Xiao Ran, all documents. I opened the attachment. The information was incredibly detailed, ranging from his birth certificate to his elementary school report cards, and even included every girlfriend he had dated. His resume was quite impressive. Xiao Ran, 28 years old, graduated from the acting department of a third-rate art college. He had no legitimate job for the past 5 years. His main job has been frequenting various high-end clubs and gyms in search of wealthy women. Under his name, there are 3 credit cards with total debts exceeding 2 million. In addition, there is a personal loan of 5 million from a notorious underground bank in Jiangcheng, with compound interest. It's likely more than that. By now, he met Su Meng at a private gym. He is the celebrity personal trainer there. He specializes in serving female clients like Su Meng, wealthy, empty, and yearning for youthful bodies. At the end of the email, a video was attached. It was captured by the surveillance camera I installed in the living room of my home. The time was last night. I was on a business trip. Su Meng brought Xiao Ren back home, back to our 180 square meter wedding house. In the video, Xiao Ren was like a curious tourist, exploring the house from room to room. Wow, Sister Meng, your house is so big. This sofa must be imported from Italy, right? It's so soft. He even picked up the wedding photo of me and Su Meng that I had placed on the bedside table. Sister Meng, so this is your ordinary husband? He doesn't look like much to me. Su Meng hugged him from behind, her voice sweet and seductive. Don't mention him, it's a buzzkill. Him, he's just for show. If I tell him to go east, he wouldn't dare go west. This house, this home, everything here, I call the shots. Him, he's nothing but a dog I keep. I turned off the video expressionlessly. So, in her heart, I was just a dog. Fine, this dog is now going to bite back, and it will bite her until not even her bones are left. My private phone rang again. This time, it was an unfamiliar, somewhat timid young man's voice. Excuse me, are you Mr. Lu Jie? Yes, I am. Brother-in-law, it's me, Su Kai. The voice on the other end of the phone instantly became enthusiastic and fawning. Su Kai, the son of Su Meng's uncle, my brother-in-law, that good-for-nothing I spent millions sending to the U.S. to study finance, who barely managed to get his diploma. Brother-in-law, I heard from my mom that you and my sister had a fight. He asked cautiously. Couples fight at the head of the bed and make up at the foot. You're a grown man, don't take it to heart with my sister. She's all bark and no bite. What's up? I couldn't be bothered to waste words on him. Heh, brother-in-law, there is a little something. Su Kai rubbed his hands together, and I could even picture his lecherous smirk. I've recently set my sights on a Ferrari. It's not that expensive, just over 5 million. Could you lend me a bit first? Once I graduate and return to China, join Menghai, and become a senior executive, I'll pay you back right away. I fell silent. I was so infuriated by the sheer audacity of this family that I ended up laughing. Their house was on the verge of collapse, yet instead of focusing on putting out the fire, they were still trying to figure out how to steal an extra brick from the rubble. Fine, I said. Really, brother-in-law, you're so kind. Su Kai's voice trembled with excitement. But before lending you the money, shouldn't we settle the previous accounts first? My voice was soft, yet it instantly silenced Su Kai on the other end of the phone. I opened a file on my computer, which Xiao Zhou had organized for me, containing all the money spent on this family. You, Su Kai, in 2020, you went to the United States. Tuition, living expenses, and accommodation were fully funded by me, totaling 3,274,000 yuan over 3 years. During that time, you failed 3 courses, with retake fees amounting to 220,000 yuan. You were caught twice for drunk driving, with bail and lawyer fees totaling 500,000 US dollars, equivalent to 3,500,000 yuan. And all those luxury items you bought, the women you dated, you maxed out the 3 supplementary cards I gave you, totaling 8 million. All of this adds up to a total of 8,794,000 yuan. Sukai, am I right? On the other end of the phone, there was a deathly silence, only heavy breathing could be heard. Sister, brother-in-law, what are you doing? Aren't we still family? Sukai's voice trembled. We used to be, I said, not anymore. My lawyer will send you the detailed bill and repayment notice to your email. You are required to pay off the amount within 1 week. Otherwise, I will file a lawsuit against you for fraud in the United States of America. Believe me, the consequences will be far more severe than failing a course. After saying that, I hung up the phone. I can imagine what kind of expression Sukai on the other side of the ocean must have right now. This is just the appetizer, everything they've taken from me, they'll have to spit it back out with interest. Just then, the doorbell of the villa rang. I frowned. Yunding Villa has extremely tight security. Without my permission, no one can reach the mountaintop. I turned on the surveillance camera. Standing at the door was someone I never expected to see. Su Meng. How did she find this place? 06. Su Meng stood at the entrance of the villa, her face pale and her lips colorless. She had changed out of that exquisite suit and was wearing a simple white dress, her hair loose, her eyes red-rimmed, looking pitiful and vulnerable. This was her usual trick after we used to argue, showing weakness, pretending to be pitiful, trying to soften my heart. Unfortunately, my heart is now harder than iron. How did she find this place? I quickly figured it out. My car has GPS tracking, and her phone is connected to my vehicle management app. In 3 years, she never used it. I thought she didn't care, but it turns out she was just waiting for the right moment. I didn't open the door. I sat on the sofa, watching her coldly through the surveillance camera. She stood at the door for a while, and when she saw no response from me, she began to ring the doorbell once, twice, stubborn and urgent. The sound of the doorbell echoed through the empty villa, sounding particularly harsh. I turned off the sound, picked up the tablet beside me and continued with my business. Xiao Zhou just sent over the scanned copy of Xiao Ran's 500,000 loan contract from the underground bank. The borrower is Xiao Ran, but in the emergency contact section, Su Meng's name and phone number were clearly written. The date was 1 month ago. This means that a month ago, or even earlier, they had already planned everything. Once Xiao Ran takes the position of vice president, this money will naturally be repaid using funds from Dream Sea Technology. What a perfect example of getting something for nothing. Outside the door, Su Meng, seeing that ringing the doorbell was useless, began pounding on the door with her hand. Lu Jie, open the door. I know you're in there. Lu Jie, come out, let's talk. Her voice was choked with tears, sounding both angry and desperate. I remained unmoved. Talk what is there left for us to talk about? The moment she betrayed me, she should have known this day would come. She pounded on the door for a long time, her hands turning red. When I still refused to open up, she finally gave up. She leaned against the cold iron door, slowly sliding down until she sat on the ground, hugging her knees. She buried her head in them, her shoulders heaving like a child abandoned by the whole world. In the past, if I had seen her like this, my heart would have ached beyond measure. I would have rushed out immediately, held her in my arms, and told her that no matter what happened, she had me. But now, watching her frail figure on the surveillance footage, there is only a cold, barren wasteland in my heart. The person on the screen is just a stranger, an actress with masterful skill, and I, an audience member who has seen through every script, have decided to leave early. The sky gradually darkened. The wind on the mountain top was strong, rustling the leaves. Su Meng was still sitting motionless at the doorway. I looked at the time. It was already 8 in the evening. She had been sitting outside for 5 hours, from 3 in the afternoon until now. My phone rang. It was my assistant, Xiao Zhou. Mr. Lu Jie, everything has been arranged. As for Xiao Ran's debt, I've already handed it over to the people on that side. They should have already found Mr. Su by now. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, almost at the same time, I saw on the monitor a few unmarked vans pull up silently outside the villa gate. 7 or 8 burly men with tattooed arms and unfriendly looks got out of the vans. The scar-faced one at the front held a photo in his hand and compared it with Su Meng, who was sitting on the ground. Then, he grinned, revealing a set of yellow teeth, and walked straight past. Su Meng, President Su, right. The voice of the scarred man was rough and arrogant. Su Meng, who was sitting on the ground, suddenly looked up and was startled to see this group of people. Who are you? She instinctively shrank back. Who we are doesn't matter. The scar-faced man crouched down and tapped Su Meng's cheek with the rolled-up newspaper in his hand. The important thing is, your young lover, Xiao Ran, owes us 5 million. We've been looking for him for a long time, but couldn't find him. We heard that he's with you now, so this debt should be repaid by you. Su Meng's face instantly turned paler than paper. I don't know what you're talking about. I have no money. She tried to stand up, but 2 burly men pressed down on her shoulders. No money. The scar-faced man laughed, a cruel laugh. the head of the prestigious Dream C Technology, Mr. Su, doesn't have money. I advise you to best repay the money obediently, otherwise. He leaned close to Su Meng's ear and whispered something in a voice only the two of them could hear. Su Meng's body trembled violently, her eyes were filled with a fear unlike anything she had ever experienced before. It was a terror far more terrifying than losing her company and all her possessions. Watching the scene unfold, I picked up the glass of red wine on the table and gently swirled it. Su Meng, this is the second course I have prepared for you. Do you think all I want is money? No, what I want is for you to experience the helplessness, humiliation, and despair that I once felt. I want you to understand that there are some people you simply cannot afford to provoke. There are some lines you cannot cross. On the surveillance footage, Su Meng finally broke down. She took out her phone, her fingers trembling as she dialed the number, but all her bank cards and credit cards had already been frozen by me. She called those friends she usually joked around with, but the moment they heard she was asking to borrow money, they hung up immediately. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter, that's reality. In the end, trembling, she dialed the one number she least wanted to call, yet had no choice but to make. It's the landline number in my office, because I've already blocked her mobile number. The phone rang. I didn't answer it right away. I waited for it to ring for a full minute, and only in the last second before it was about to automatically hang up did I unhurriedly press the answer button. Hello, Lu Jie. On the other end of the line came Su Meng's tearful, trembling voice. Save me. I didn't say anything. I just listened quietly, listening to her suppressed sobs on the phone, and the malicious laughter of those burly men outside the call. Interwoven into a moving symphony. Lu Jie, I beg you, I know I was wrong. She finally let go of her pitiful pride and began to plead. Let them go. I'll agree to anything. Just let them go. Beg me. I let out a light laugh, not loud, but like a hammer, shattering her last shred of hope. Mr. Su, have you forgotten? We have nothing to do with each other anymore. But I deliberately paused, savoring the way her breath caught the instant those two words left my lips. I can give you a chance, I said leisurely, my voice laced with amusement. Tomorrow morning at 9, come to the lobby of Genesis Capital, crawl in on your knees from the main entrance, then I'll consider meeting you. 07, the next day, at the headquarters of Genesis Capital in Jiangqing Financial Center, a sea of people. What I said last night was clearly not meant for Su Meng alone. Scarface and his group kindly helped spread the news for me. The former CEO of Menghai Technology, Su Meng, seeking forgiveness from her ex-husband, will start from the entrance of Genesis Capital tomorrow at 9 in the morning, cow-tapping every 3 steps, and crawl on her knees all the way to the top floor. This news spread like a virus, sweeping through all the elite circles and media networks of Jiangqing overnight. This was no longer a personal feud between two individuals, it was a public execution in the form of a sacrificial ritual, and I was the god, seated high upon the altar, coldly accepting the sacrifice. I stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows on the 108th floor, looking down at the dense crowd in the square below. They were like a school of sharks catching the scent of blood, holding up their phones and long lenses, waiting for the star of the day to appear. My assistant Xiao Zhou stood behind me, not daring to breathe. 8:59, a nanny van stopped at the edge of the crowd, the door opened, and Su Meng stepped out. She was wearing an old, faded dress, her face bare of makeup, and her hair casually tied back. She had lost weight and looked haggard, yet there was an eerie calm in her eyes, as if she had already resigned herself to her fate. Her mother, Zhou Mailan, and her younger brother, Su Yang, supported her on either side. It was less of a support than an escort. There was not a trace of heartache on Zhou Mailan's face, only a morbid, urgent urging. Hurry up, Meng, get on your knees, show Mr. Lu your sincerity. If you kneel, our family will be saved. Su Yang chimed in from the side. Sister, it's just a kneel. A true man knows when to bend and when to stand, and you're a woman after all. Think about my Ferrari, think about Mom's house. The surrounding camera flashes went off like crazy. The reporters practically shoved their microphones into Su Meng's mouth. Ms. Su, what are your thoughts on committing adultery during marriage and attempting to transfer your husband's assets? Mr. Su, was your behavior today a genuine show of remorse, or just another performance? Mr. Su, I heard that Dream C Technology stock has hit the limit down. Will you go bankrupt because of this? Su Meng turned a deaf ear to all of this. Her gaze pierced through the crowded room, through the cold glass curtain wall, as if she could see me on the 108th floor. There was neither love nor hate in her eyes, only a dead, empty void remained. At precisely 9 o'clock, her knees gave way, and she fell straight to the ground, kneeling rigidly before the golden-lettered doors of Genesis Capital. The knee collided with the hard marble floor, producing a dull thud. I could almost hear the sound of bones shattering. The crowd let out a gasp. What followed was an even more frantic clicking of shutters. She did not pause, kneel, kowtow, stand up, take 3 steps, kneel again, kowtow again. Every movement was like that of a programmed robot, standardized, numb. Her forehead was quickly scraped raw, and blood trickled down her cheeks, mixing with the dust, looking utterly wretched. Zhou Mylan wailed, on the side with earth-shattering intensity, "My daughter, why must you have such a bitter fate, Mr. Liu, President Liu, did you see that? My daughter knows she was wrong, please be magnanimous and forgive her this time," she cried while stealing glances at the cameras around her, afraid that her loving mother image wasn't being captured. I watched all of this coldly. Xiao Zhou whispered something behind me. "Mr. Liu, should we have security clear the area?" "No need," I picked up the coffee on the table and took a sip. "Doesn't she like to put on a show? Today, I'll give her the biggest stage in the world, let her perform to her heart's content." The distance from the main entrance to the elevator hall was no more than 100 meters, yet Su Meng took a full half-hour to crawl that distance. When she appeared before me, covered in blood and as limp as a pile of mud, I didn't even help her to her feet. I simply looked down at her from above, watching this woman, once cradled in my hands, now beneath my feet, humble as dust. "I have come." Her voice was hoarse, like a worn-out bellows. "Everything you said, I did it all." She lifted her head, her face smeared with blood and dirt, yet her eyes shone with startling brightness. "Now, can you let me go?" I didn't answer her. I simply pulled something out of my pocket. It was a hospital examination report. I threw it in her face. "Let you off," I laughed, a cold laugh. "Su Meng, I didn't ask you here today to watch you perform. I'm here to tell you something. Whose bastard is that in your belly? 08. The examination report fluttered lightly onto Su Meng's face before slipping to the ground. The words, 6 weeks pregnant, on it struck everyone's face like a resounding slap. Su Meng is pregnant. She froze completely. Instinctively, she placed a hand over her lower abdomen, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, and looked at me in terror. How did you find out? How would I know?" I smiled. "Not only do I know you're pregnant, I also know that you originally intended to use this child as your final, and most lethal, trump card. You want to use this child to win my sympathy, to threaten me, to reclaim everything you've lost. You think this is your lifeline. Unfortunately, you've miscalculated. If you don't want others to know, then don't do it." I walked around the desk, approached her, and crouched down to look her in the eye. I took hold of her chin and forced her to meet my gaze. "Su Meng, do you really think that because of this child, I have to take responsibility for you? With this child, I can't pull out my 20 billion yuan investment. With this child, can the scandal of your marital affair be covered up?" Her pupils contracted violently. Every word I spoke precisely hit the deepest calculations in her heart. All her plans, all her escape routes, were laid bare by me under the sunlight, leaving no place to hide. "No, that's not true." She began to panic, tears streaming down her face like beads from a broken string. "Ajay, let me explain. This child is yours, our child." She grabbed my hand, crying so hard, her tear-streaked face full of anguish. "That day, it was the night before you went on your business trip. Have you forgotten? Is that so?" I cut her off, my voice devoid of warmth. "The night before my business trip, I slept in the study. Because you said you had an important meeting the next day and needed a quiet environment. We haven't even exchanged a single word." "Su Meng, with such a poor memory, how did you become the president?" Her crying stopped abruptly, all color drained from her face. I was wrong, I really was wrong." She began to apologize incoherently. "I shouldn't have lied to you. I was just too scared. I was afraid of losing you, afraid of losing our family, home." I shook off her hand and stood up. "When you were rolling around with another man on the bed I bought, why didn't you think about the home we had? When you announced in front of everyone that he was your husband, why didn't you think about me? Now, you're talking to me about family. Su Meng, don't you find it disgusting?" Each of my questions struck her heart like a heavy hammer. She collapsed onto the ground, unable to say a word except to cry. Outside the office door, Zhou Mylan and Su Yang also heard the commotion inside. "A child? What child?" Zhou Mylan's eyes instantly lit up. As if she had grasped a lifeline, she pushed the door open, eager to rush in, but was stopped outside by Xiao Zhou and 2 bodyguards. "Let me in, my daughter is pregnant, it's your Liu family's child." She slapped the bodyguard in a fit of rage. "You Liu family can't be so heartless. You want the grandson but not the daughter-in-law." Watching the new commotion outside the door, I felt utterly ironic. This family has truly carved the word shameless into their very bones. I no longer paid attention to the noise outside. I walked back to Su Meng and looked at her pale face. "Su Meng, I'm giving you one last chance. Whose child is this, really?" She lifted her head, looking at me with tear-filled eyes. Her lips moved slightly, as if she wanted to say something, but in the end, she chose the answer she believed was most advantageous. "It's yours, as it really is yours." She was still making a final struggle. "We can do a paternity test once the baby is born. No need to wait." I interrupted her. I took out another document from the drawer of my desk. It was my personal health report from 3 years ago. I threw it at her face again. Su Meng, open your eyes and look clearly. This report was done before I married you. It clearly states that due to a high fever in my childhood, my fertility is 0. I, Lu Jie, will never be able to have my own child in this lifetime. My voice was very calm, yet it struck like a thunderbolt, blasting through the quiet office. All expression on Su Meng's face froze: shock, bewilderment, disbelief, and finally, utter despair. She finally understood. I knew all of her lies from the very beginning, from the start. I had been waiting for her to fall into the deepest trap I had dug for her. The child she thought was her trump card has now become the final nail in the coffin that seals her betrayal. 09. No, it can't be, Su Meng muttered to herself, picking up the health report from the floor and trembling as she traced every word with her fingers. The black and white text, along with the glaring conclusion of 0 chance of conception, felt like a red-hot branding iron, searing her eyes shut. You lied to me. You've been lying to me all along. Lied to you. I looked down at her from above, my eyes filled with pity. Su Meng, I never lied to you. I just never told you, that's all. I never told you what you truly want. We are nothing but each other's masks. 3 years ago, when we got married, I once wanted to tell her about this report, but I hesitated. I loved her, with a humility that bordered on self-abasement. I was terrified that if she knew I was unable to have children, she would leave me, so I chose to keep it hidden. Naively, I believed that as long as I treated her well enough and could give her everything she desired, this minor flaw could be concealed forever. Looking back now, how ridiculous it seems. Our marriage was built on a lie from the very beginning, one about love, one about sex. Now, both lies have shattered, so, Su Meng's voice sounded like it was drifting out from hell. Hollow and despairing, you knew from the very beginning, you knew everything. She laughed, and as she laughed, tears began to fall. Lu Jie, you're really ruthless, ruthless. I crouched down, looking straight into her hollow eyes. If I were truly ruthless, you would have been ruined the first time you brought Xiao Ran home. If I were truly ruthless, you wouldn't even have the chance to kneel here today. Su Meng, I gave you chances. It was you who, time and again, walked yourself into a dead end. I stood up, no longer looking at her. I had no interest in saying another word to an opponent who had already lost completely. Xiao Zhou, I called out toward the door. Xiao Zhou immediately pushed the door open and came in. Mr. Lu, take her, and the bastard in her belly, to the hospital. I coldly ordered. Find the best doctors and the best equipment to give her a comprehensive checkup. I want the most detailed report, including the fetal DNA sample. I want Xiao Ran and that underground bank to know, loud and clear, whose child this is. Su Meng's body gave a violent shudder. She finally understood what I was getting at. I will not only ruin her reputation, I will also let her be devoured by the very love she chose, leaving her utterly shattered. How could someone like Xiao Ren ever accept a child that brings him endless trouble even before it is born? And that underground bank, after learning she is carrying Xiao Ran's child, will only see her as an even more valuable collateral. No, Lu Jie, you can't do this. She lunged at me like a madwoman, clinging to my leg. This is my child. It has nothing to do with you. You can't take him away. I kicked her away. The force was not strong, but enough to make her fall to the ground. Your child, I sneered. The moment you conceived him, he was no longer yours alone. He is the best evidence I have used to judge you. Zhou Mailan and Su Yang, who were outside the door, finally snapped out of their shock. What? Infertility? The child isn't yours. Zhou Mailan's mind raced, and she immediately understood the situation at hand. Su Meng's card is completely useless now. No, it has even become a liability. She wanted to rush in and argue, but Su Yang grabbed her arm to stop her. Mom, stop making a scene. Su Yang's face was filled with terror. He finally realized that this brother-in-law of his was not someone they could afford to provoke. All he wanted now was to quickly distance himself from the situation. Sis, how could you do something like this? You've let us down so much, he accused sternly and righteously. Starting today, I don't have you as my sister anymore. With that, he pulled Zhou Mailan, who was still in a daze, and ran away without looking back. Faster than anyone else in the office, only Su Meng and I remained, and her silent, desperate weeping. She lay collapsed on the cold floor like a puppet drained of all strength. All the scheming, all the struggles, had become a joke in the face of absolute power. I walked to the window and watched the crowd below gradually disperse. This farce should come to an end, but for Su Meng, her trial was only just beginning. I took out my phone and dialed Lawyer Zhou's number. Lawyer Zhou, notify all shareholders of Menghai Technology. An emergency shareholders meeting will be held at 10:00 a.m. tomorrow. There is only one agenda item. I, Lu Jie from Genesis Capital, will fully acquire Menghai Technology and assume the position of the company's new chairman. On the other end Of the phone, Attorney Zhou's voice carried excitement. Understood, Mr. Liu. I hung up and looked back at Su Meng on the ground. She seemed to have heard what I said, and her body trembled even more. President Su, I walked up to her, my voice calm. Tomorrow, remember to attend your own resignation ceremony on time. At 10 o'clock the next morning, the conference room of Dream Sea Technology was filled with all the company's shareholders. Some of these people were veterans who had started the business with Su Meng, while others were capital representatives I had invited in with money at a later stage. They had once praised Su Meng to the skies, considering her the Chinese version of Steve Jobs, a rare genius in the business world. Now, as they looked at me sitting in the main seat, their expressions were complex, and they were as silent as cicadas in winter. I was wearing a well-tailored Armani suit, calmly flipping through the documents in my hand. To my left sat lawyer Zhou and his team. To my right was an empty seat. It was reserved for Su Meng. 9:59. The door to the conference room was pushed open. Su Meng walked in. She had changed into clean clothes and wore light makeup on her face, trying to conceal the disheveled and weary appearance from the day before, but her reddened eyes and pale lips still gave her away. She walked, step by step, like a prisoner sentenced to death, toward the center of power that once belonged to her. She sat down in the seat next to me. Without so much as a single glance in my direction. In the meeting room, it was so quiet that you could hear everyone's breathing. It's exactly 10 o'clock. I closed the document in my hand and swept my gaze across everyone in the room. Everyone, time is precious, so let's keep this brief. My voice was not loud, but it carried an unquestionable authority. From today onward, I, Liu Jie, will fully acquire Dream Sea Technology in the name of Genesis Capital. The acquisition price will be based on yesterday's closing price. I will purchase all the shares held by everyone present at a 20% premium. If anyone has objections, please voice them now. The meeting room was completely silent. A 20% premium, for a company whose stock price has already hit the limit down, is mired in scandal, and whose founder is on the verge of bankruptcy. This isn't an acquisition at all. This is charity. No one is a fool. Almost the instant my words fell, everyone scrambled to sign their names on the equity transfer agreement, afraid that I would change my mind the next second. Lawyer Zhou's team was extremely efficient. In less than half an hour, all the legal procedures were completed. From this moment on, Dream Sea Technology, the company that Su Meng had poured all her heart and youth into, completely belonged to Liu. I stood up and walked to the main screen in the conference room. Now, as the sole shareholder and newly appointed chairman of Dream Sea Technology, I announced the first personnel appointment. I picked up the remote control and pressed a button. On the screen appeared Xiao Ran's handsome face, along with his impressive resume, including the high-interest loan he owed. Xiao Ran, former celebrity personal trainer, now former vice president of Dream Sea Technology. My gaze turned to Su Meng, who had remained silent all along, due to severe personal debt issues and suspected involvement in commercial fraud by leveraging personal relationships with former company executives. I hereby announce that Dream Sea Technology will permanently cease employing this individual and reserves the right to pursue legal action against them. At the same time, I have transferred Mr. Xiran's debt contract to the most professional collection agency in Jiangcheng. I believe they will use the most enthusiastic methods to help Mr. Xiaoran settle his debts as soon as possible. Su Meng jerked her head up, eyes blazing with fury. She knew exactly what I meant by professional and enthusiastic. That is a means that can drive a person to ruin. Xiao Ran is finished for life. I paid no heed to her anger. I pressed the next button on the remote control. On the screen, photos appeared of Zhou Mainland throwing a tantrum on the ground, along with Su Yang's lecherous and sycophantic face. The second decision. My voice grew even colder, effective immediately. Menghai Technology will establish an independent legal department dedicated to recovering all company and personal assets that have been misappropriated or embezzled. The primary target for recovery is Mr. Su Kai, who, under various pretexts during his studies in the United States, borrowed 8,794,000 renminbi from my personal account. Additionally, Ms. Zhou Mainland, over the years, has demanded that I cover various unreasonable expenses under the guise of family ties, totaling 3,120,000 RMB. I give them 3 days. If the money is not repaid within this period, we will meet in court. I believe that the crimes of fraud and malicious misappropriation of others' property are enough to keep this mother and son in prison for a few years. Liu Jie, you bastard. Su Meng finally couldn't hold back any longer. Like an enraged lioness, she lunged at me. Come at me, this has nothing to do with them. I dodged sideways. 2 bodyguards immediately stepped forward and grabbed her by the arms. One on each side. She struggled wildly and screamed like a maniac right in front of me. There was no trace left of the noble, cool, and elegant goddess she used to be. I walked up to her, looking at her face contorted with anger and humiliation. It's fine, I laughed. Su Meng, have you forgotten who it was that came to me, crying and sniffling, saying how hard your mother had it raising you, how your uncle's family was struggling, and asking me to help out more? Who was it that, to clean up after your worthless brother, repeatedly overdrew on my trust? It was you who turned them into leeches parasitizing me. Now, I'm just pulling these blood-sucking leeches off me, one by one. Does it hurt you to see it? Every word I spoke was like a knife, deeply piercing her heart. She stopped struggling, her body going limp, and it was only because the bodyguards held her up that she didn't collapse to the ground. Her eyes grew empty. I no longer looked at her. I said to Attorney Zhou, please announce the third decision. Attorney Zhou nodded, cleared his throat, and picked up the last document. According to Mr. Luge's instructions, I hereby announce the final personnel change at Dream Sea Technology. He paused for a moment, his gaze falling on the disheartened Su Meng, former chairman, MS Su Meng, due to serious dereliction of duty during her tenure, and her attempt to misappropriate investors' assets by taking advantage of her position, causing irreparable damage to the company's reputation. It has been decided by the new chairman, Mr. Luge, effective immediately. MS Su Meng is to be dismissed, and she is hereby appointed as. Lawyer Zhou deliberately paused here, as if even he found this decision somewhat unbelievable. He took a deep breath and, in a matter-of-fact, emotionless tone, read out the final outcome. Appoint him, her as a probationary employee of the newly established cleaning department of the company. Take office effective immediately. 11. Cleaning department, probationary employee. These 7 words, like 7 steel needles, pierced fiercely into Su Meng's ears. She suddenly looked up, staring at me in disbelief. In her eyes, there was no longer anger, but an extreme humiliation more unbearable than death. What did you say? Her voice was trembling. You heard correctly. I walked up to her, looking down at her from above. From today on, your job is to clean the 108 toilets in this building. Every toilet must be wiped spotless by your own hands, until I am satisfied. You're dreaming, she screamed. Luge, just kill me. Humiliating me like this is worse than death. Kill you, I smiled, a cruel smile. That would be letting you off too easy. Su Meng, I want you to live. I want you to keep your eyes wide open and watch carefully. Watch how I take over everything you're so proud of. Watch how your former employees now bow and scrape to me. Watch how the dog you once looked down on now sits on your throne, ruling over your fate. I want you to live every day in regret and humiliation, unable to find a way to live, and unable to find a way to die. I leaned close to her ear and whispered in a voice only the two of us could hear. Forgot to tell you, the DNA test results for that bastard in your belly are out. It's Xiao Rance, no doubt about it. I have already sent this report, along with a copy of the 5 million IOU you personally signed, to your darling lover. Oh, and I also, kindly, reminded him that the collection agency's favorite tactic is to sell the debtor's relatives to Southeast Asia. Tell me, do you think he will try to save you now, or will he run faster than anyone else? Su Meng's body trembled like a sieve. There was no color left in her face. She knew that every word I said was true. Xiao Ran, that coward, had only one choice after learning he was going to be a father and would have to bear a mountain of debt he could never repay. Run, and she, along with the child in her womb, were the biggest burdens on his escape route. No, he wouldn't. He loves me. She continued to mutter, engaging in her final act of self-hypnosis. I straightened up, looking at her as if she were a pitiful creature. Love, Su Meng, a selfish woman like you, do you even deserve to talk about love? You only love yourself, so how could you possibly understand how to love others? I no longer wasted words with her. I gave a subtle signal to the 2 bodyguards. Take her to the cleaning department to check in, get her into work clothes. Starting today, she officially begins her post. Yes, Mr. Lu. The bodyguards hoisted up Su Meng, who had gone limp as a ragdoll, and dragged her out of the meeting room like a dead dog. She did not resist any further, nor did she scream again. She simply stared at the ceiling with vacant, wide eyes, as if her soul had been completely stripped from her body. In the conference room, only I remained, surrounded by a group of trembling new subordinates. I returned to my seat at the head of the table, resuming the role of the shrewd business magnate who commands the situation. Enough with the farce. Now, let's talk about the future of Dream Sea Technology. My goal is to increase its market capitalization tenfold within 3 months. All the shareholders gasped in shock. Then came the frenzy. They knew that by following me, they would gain unprecedented wealth and glory. And what of the woman who once led them to glory, yet now has been reduced to a prisoner? No one remembers her anymore, nor does anyone care about her. That afternoon, I was handling documents in the office. Assistant Xiao Zhou knocked and came in. Mr. Lu, this is the first work report from the cleaning department. He handed me a tablet. I opened it. Above is a photo of Su Meng dressed in gray cleaning attire, holding a mop and a bucket, working in a restroom. Her hands, which once played the piano and signed contracts, are now wearing rubber gloves as she struggles to scrub a toilet. A female employee deliberately poured a cup of milk tea onto the freshly mopped floor, then arrogantly ordered her, "Hey, you, the new one, over here, mop it again." Sumang silently picked up the mop, bent down, and resumed her work. All around her, there were undisguised sounds of mockery. These photos had somehow been posted on the company's internal forum. The title read, "Shocking, former beauty CEO reduced to a toilet cleaner. Is this a distortion of human nature or a collapse of morality?" Below are hundreds of schadenfreude-filled replies. Heavens. Justice is a cycle. Who can escape the heavens' retribution? Deserved it, after she was so arrogant before. I heard she's pregnant too. How pitiful. Pitiful people must have something detestable about them. I turned off the tablet with a blank expression. "Inform the logistics department," I said, "to reflect our company's humanistic care. Every employee in the cleaning department will be equipped with a body-worn recorder. It must be kept on throughout the entire work shift. I want to ensure that every detail of Miss Su's work is recorded clearly and completely." Xiaozhou was stunned for a moment, then immediately understood what I meant. This is to eliminate any possibility of Sumang slacking off or seeking sympathy. It is even more about turning this humiliation into a 24-hour uninterrupted, publicly broadcasted live stream. "I understand, Mr. Liu." A flicker of reluctance passed through Xiaozhou's eyes, but it was overshadowed by a greater sense of awe. He knew that the man before him, once determined to take revenge, would wield methods more terrifying than the devil himself. 3 days later, at Jiangqingno, one women's prison, I sat in the visitation room, looking through a thick layer of bulletproof glass at the woman across from me in prison uniform, her hair buzzed short and her face gaunt with exhaustion. Zhou Mailan, my former mother-in-law. 3 days ago, after I announced my intention to recover the outstanding debt, she and Su Yang were completely panicked. Su Yang booked a flight ticket overnight, intending to flee back to the United States. However, at the airport, I was directly intercepted by my legal team on charges of massive fraud. After learning that she not only had to repay the money but might also face prison time, Zhou Mailan made an extremely foolish decision. She took a fruit knife, rushed to the Genesis Capitol building, and threatened to die with me. The outcome was predictable. Before the knife was even drawn, she was pinned to the ground by patrolling police officers. Attempted intentional injury, combined with the previous economic disputes, would lead to combined punishments for multiple crimes, enough for her to spend several years here reflecting on her actions. Lu Zhe. She picked up the phone, her voice hoarse, her eyes filled with fear. "I was wrong, I know I was wrong, please let me go, I'll give you all the money back." "No, I don't have any money, I'll have Meng Meng pay you back. Let her be your servant." Too late. I picked up the phone and said 2 words softly. "Zhou Mailan, I'm not here today to listen to your apologies. I'm here to tell you that your precious son, Su Yang, is already on a plane heading to North Africa." "What?" Zhou Mailan abruptly stood up, pressing her face against the glass. "North Africa? What is he doing there? What have you done to him?" "Nothing much," I said leisurely. "I just thought it would be a waste to let his finance major go unused, so I found him a new job, as an accountant at a mining site in North Africa. The job includes room and board, with a high annual salary. The conditions are tough, though, and he won't be able to return home for 10 years. I believe this job will help him truly grow into a man." Zhou Mailan's eyes instantly lost all their luster. She knew exactly what I meant by mine area. It was the most chaotic, lawless place in the world. Someone like Su Yang, a useless piece of trash, wouldn't just struggle to work as an accountant there, he'd be lucky to survive. 3 days, you devil. She slumped into the chair, looking at me in despair. "A devil," I smiled. "If it weren't for this devil of mine, you'd still be living in a leaky shantytown. If it weren't for this devil of mine, you would have died on the operating table from a heart attack long ago. If it weren't for this devil of mine, your precious son would still be a homeless man on the streets of America." Zhou Mailan, I gave your family the path to heaven. It was you yourselves, blinded by greed, who chose to leap into hell. I hung up the phone, stood up, and prepared to leave. As I turned around, it was as if I had suddenly remembered something, and picked up the phone again. "Oh, right, there's one more thing." I looked at her desperate face and spoke word by word. "Your daughter, Su Meng, is pregnant." A faint glimmer of hope flashed in Zhou Mailan's eyes. She's pregnant with your child." "No." I cruelly shattered her last illusion. "She's carrying that pretty boy's bastard child. And, right now, she's an outstanding employee in our company's cleaning department. Every day, I'm responsible for cleaning 108 toilets. If you behave well, in a few years, there might be a chance to become her colleague." After saying that, I no longer looked at her face, which was twisted to the extreme, and turned to leave. Outside the visitation room, the sun was shining brightly. I took a deep breath, feeling the knot in my heart loosen a little more. I knew that my revenge had only just begun. Su Meng, Zhou Mailan, Su Yang, Xiao Ran, all those who have hurt me, betrayed me, not a single one will escape. I got into the car and told the driver, take me to Menghai Technology. Xiao Zhou, sitting in the passenger seat, reported to me on today's work, Mr. Liu, everything at the company is running smoothly. The new AI project has been launched and is expected to go live in 3 months. Also, there was a bit of an issue with Miss Su today. Go on. Today at noon, while she was cleaning the restroom, a few female employees cornered her. Xiao Zhou's tone was somewhat hesitant. They said some really nasty things, and they pushed her. Miss Su fell, went into labor, and bled a little. She was taken to the hospital. I frowned. How is the baby? The child is fine. The doctor said it's just a mild threatened miscarriage and requires rest. I've already had the administrative department handle those female employees. I fell silent. I never expected that those employees who used to flatter Su Meng would now resort to such vicious means to kick her while she's down. This is human nature. Many will add flowers to brocade, but few will offer charcoal in the snow. When a wall falls, everyone pushes it. When a drum is broken, everyone beats it. Mr. Liu, are we heading to the hospital now? Xiao Zhou asked cautiously. No, I shook my head. Back to Yunding Villa. I don't want to go to the hospital. I don't want to see her looking so pitiful. I'm afraid I'll soften, even though I know that possibility is extremely slim. The car drove smoothly along the mountain road. For some reason, I felt a bit restless. I lit a cigarette and watched the scenery race past the window, yet, uncontrollably, the image of Su Meng lying in a pool of blood surfaced in my mind. Damn it, I took a deep drag from my cigarette. Lucia, you can't let your guard down. This woman doesn't deserve even a shred of your sympathy. Everything she is enduring today is her own doing. Just then, my private phone rang. It was an unfamiliar, encrypted overseas number. My heart skipped a beat. Fewer than 3 people in the world know this number, and each of them represents a dark period from my past that I no longer wish to mention. 13. I answered the call. No words were spoken. This is the rule between us. On the other end of the line, there was a silence that lasted a full 10 seconds, as if confirming my identity, or rather, confirming that I was still alive. Finally, an aged, yet piercing voice rang out, carrying a heavy European accent. Ghost, you're still alive. This wasn't a question, it was a statement. Dad. I exhaled a ring of smoke, my voice calm, but the fingers gripping my phone unconsciously tightened. It's been 5 years since I last heard the code name, Ghost, ever since I met Su Meng and decided to wash my hands of that life, returning to the ordinary world. That name, along with my past struggles in blood and fire, has been buried away. Old Man was the leader of the mysterious organization I once belonged to. A true godfather, who controlled the lifeline of the global underground economy, capable of causing a stock market crash in a small country with just a stomp of his foot. I was once the sharpest blade in his hand. I handled countless shady businesses. For him, Genesis Capital was merely a portion of the money I had laundered from those businesses. I thought you had died in some soft, indulgent paradise. There was no trace of joy or anger in the old man's voice. It seems your love isn't as wonderful as you imagined. My pupils suddenly contracted. You investigated me, child. I never investigate my family. The old man let out a soft chuckle. I simply left a pair of eyes by your side, for when you decided to leave, in case you were being bullied and never knew it. Now it seems, these eyes have been used just right. A cold sweat instantly broke out on my back. I had always thought I had completely left the past behind. It turns out, I have been living under his gaze all along. Su Meng's betrayal, my counterattack, all of it felt like a reality show he was merely watching. That woman, and the bastard growing in her womb. Do you need me to take care of them for you? His father's voice sounded as if he were discussing a piece of trash, or perhaps that pretty boy Xiao Ran, and her whole family of vampires. Just say the word, and by tomorrow morning, they will vanish from this world completely, as if they never existed. His words carried a chilling, almost magical power. I knew he wasn't joking. As long as I nod, Su Meng, Xiao Ran, Zhou Mailan, Su Yang, everyone who displeases me will die in the most reasonable way, by accident, car accidents, falls, sudden heart attacks. No trace will be left behind. For a moment, my heart wavered. This is the simplest, most direct, and most thorough solution. But soon, I rejected this idea. No, I don't want them to die. I want them alive to endure the long and painful punishment I have tailored just for them. I want them to pay for their folly in endless remorse and despair. No need, old man. I take a deep breath, calming the surging emotions in my heart. This is my family matter. I will handle it cleanly, in my own way. On the other end of the phone, silence fell. After a long while, the old man finally let out a meaningful sigh. You're still so soft-hearted. Ghost, remember, being merciful to your enemies is being cruel to yourself. However, since you've made your decision, I respect your choice, but," his tone suddenly turned serious, "during the 5 years you were away, a small issue arose within the organization. The doctor has betrayed us." My heart suddenly skipped a beat. The doctor, the man who once fought alongside me and saved my life 3 times, he is the second in command of the organization, responsible for all intelligence and assassinations. How could he have betrayed us? He took half of the organization's core members and the most important list. For the first time, the old man's voice carried a hint of weariness. "That list contains information on all the seeds we've planted around the world. Once exposed, the entire organization will collapse within 24 hours, and he is currently in Jiangcheng." My breath nearly stopped. "Is he coming to find me?" "No, he's looking for something," the old man said, "an inheritance that I had you take out of the organization 5 years ago and forget forever. Where is that thing now?" My mind went blank with a sudden jolt. 5 years ago, when I left the organization, the old man did give me a safe. He said it was my well-deserved pension. He told me to find an absolutely secure place, hide it away, and never open it again. I did it. I hid it in the home that Su Meng and I share, that 180 square meter spacious apartment, in a blind spot I thought only I knew, an absolute dead corner. In the master bedroom, inside the nightstand's drawer, "Mr. Liu," Assistant Xiao Zhou's voice pulled me back from the cold memories. "What's wrong with you? Your complexion looks so bad." I didn't answer him. I pushed the car door open violently and rushed out. "Turn around, back to the city center, hurry," I roared at the driver. "I have a strong premonition, Su Meng, something has happened." "No, it's not that something has happened to her, it's that she herself is going to drag every single one of us into an abyss of eternal damnation." 14. By the time I rushed back to the place once called home, it was already too late. The door was ajar, the room was in complete disarray, the sofa was slashed to shreds, the vase lay shattered on the floor, and all my belongings had been pulled out and scattered everywhere. It looked as if a tornado had swept through, and Su Meng was sitting right in the middle of this chaos. She was wearing a hospital gown, her face paler than paper, but in her hands, she was clutching a black metal safe tightly, the safe I had hidden away for 5 years, never once opened. "You're back," she smiled when she saw me. Her smile was eerie, yet hauntingly beautiful. "Liu Jie, you still care about me, right?" I ignored her ramblings. My gaze was fixed intently on the safe in her hand. "Give it to me." My voice is squeezed out through clenched teeth. "Give it to you." She holds up the safe, as if showing off a trophy. "For this, you didn't even go to the hospital, but came straight back to find me. It seems that what's inside is far more important than my life, and even more important than the child in my womb, isn't it, Su Meng? I'll say it one more time, give it to me." Step by step, I moved closer to her. The killing intent emanating from me was almost palpable. Xiao Zhou followed closely behind me, his legs trembling with fear from the sheer intensity of the aura, yet he still loyally stepped in front of me to shield me. "Mr. Liu, don't act impulsively, get lost." I shoved him aside. In my eyes, there was only Su Meng, and the Pandora's box in her hands that could destroy everything. "Don't come any closer," Su Meng screamed, pulling a fruit knife from behind her and pressing it against her own neck. It was the same knife that Zhou Mainland had taken to Genesis Capital. "I don't know how she got her hands on it. Take one more step, and I'll die right in front of you." I stopped in my tracks, not because I was afraid she would die, but because I can't let her die now, at least not until I get the safe back. "What exactly do you want?" I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. "What do you want?" Su Meng smiled, but tears streamed down her face. "Liu Jie, that's the question I should be asking you. How far exactly do you want to push me? You ruined my company, drove my mother insane, exiled my brother, and humiliated my dignity. Now, for this worthless box, are you going to push me to my death?" "I gave you everything I could," she said, "my youth, my love, my body. I thought I married for love, but in the end, I only married a devil. In sheep's clothing, you lifted me up to the clouds from heaven with your own hands, then cruelly threw me down into hell when I was at my happiest. Liu Jie, how ruthless your heart is." I silently watching her there, hysterically accusing me of my crimes. I find it laughable even at this moment. She still believes that everything is my fault. She had never reflected that it was her own greed and betrayal that had led to today's outcome. "Are you done?" Only after she had cried herself out and talked herself out did I speak coldly. "When you're done, give me the suitcase, for you." She wiped away her tears, a resolute smile appearing on her face. "Sure, but I have one condition. You, right in front of me, sign this document." She took out another document from behind her and threw it in front of me. It was a divorce agreement, and a property gift agreement. She demanded that I give up all legal claims against her and her family, and 50% of the shares under Genesis Capital will be gifted to her for free, as compensation for her youth loss. Over the past 3 years, I looked at this whimsical agreement and laughed in disbelief. This woman is truly insane. What did she think she was holding in her hand? My lifeblood? No, she was holding her own death warrant. What if I don't sign it? I ask, not signing. Sumang's smile turns ferocious. Then I'll hand this box over to the police, or hand it over to the media, or hand it over to someone who is very interested in it. As she said this, a light flickered in her eyes that I couldn't understand. I believe there will always be someone willing to pay any price for the secrets inside. By then, Luja, guess who will die a more miserable death? My heart sank. She knew about the existence of the doctor. It was the doctor who found her. It was the doctor who gave her the courage to take him down with her. He used her, turning her into the sharpest blade against me. Looking at her face, twisted with hatred, I suddenly felt very tired. This game has spiraled beyond my control. It is no longer just a personal grudge between her and me. It has turned into a life-or-death gamble, involving too many people and too many interests. She and I are nothing more than helpless pawns on this chessboard of fate. Okay, I slowly uttered a single word. I'll sign. 15. A flash of triumphant joy lit up Sumang's eyes, but more than that, there was disbelief. She probably hadn't expected me to yield so easily. In her eyes, the deal worth hundreds of billions of yuan was surprisingly fragile compared to that mysterious safe. This only made her more convinced that the safe contained a shocking secret capable of destroying me. Sign and press your fingerprint. She threw the pen and ink pad in front of me, while the knife remained tightly pressed against her neck. Without any relaxation, she was afraid I would play tricks. I didn't hesitate. I picked up the pen and, with bold and sweeping strokes, signed my name, Luja, at the end of the agreement. Then, I dipped my thumb into the bright red ink pad and pressed down firmly. The entire process flowed smoothly, without a moment's hesitation. Okay, I pushed the signed agreement over to her. Now, give me the case. Sumang looked at the signed agreement with a complicated expression. She still seemed unable to believe it. She picked up the agreement and read it over and over again, carefully, word by word. Only after confirming that it was indeed my handwritten signature, along with clear fingerprints, did she finally let out a long sigh of relief, as if she had just fought a battle of the century and won. The expression on her face instantly relaxed, tinged with smugness. She pulled the knife away from her neck and tossed it to the ground, where it clattered with a sharp ring. She stood up, brushed the dust off her clothes, and once again assumed her aloof, queenly demeanor, even though she was clad in a comical hospital gown. Luja, you lose. She looked at me, the corners of her mouth curling into a triumphant smile. From now on, I, Sumang, am the largest shareholder of Genesis Capital. As for you, you're nothing more than an employee working for me now. Oh, no. She seemed to remember something and smiled even more brightly. I forgot, you have nothing now. The empire you built with your own hands, now, it's mine. How does it feel? Isn't it exciting? I looked at her smug, triumphant face and said nothing. I just watched her quietly, like looking at a death row inmate about to be led to the gallows. What? Unconvinced, she walked up to me, extended her finger, and poked my chest. Luja, let me tell you, this is just the beginning. How you treated me in the past, I will repay you tenfold, 100-fold. I will make you suffer 10,000 times worse than I did when I was a cleaner. I will make you kneel at my feet, begging for mercy like a dog. As for this box, she shook the safe in her hand, laughing so hard she trembled. Right now, I'm even more curious about what's inside, but I'm in no hurry. I'll find a time to study it slowly, and then, at the most appropriate moment, I'll give it to the most suitable person, let it unleash its maximum value. With that, she picked up the safe and strode past me with the gait of a victor. She was going to take over her new empire. However, just as she brushed past me, I moved. My movement was as fast as lightning. One hand precisely gripped her wrist, the other hand, at an eerie angle, snatched the safe from her embrace in an instant. At the same time, my knee struck her abdomen with great force. Ah! Sumang let out a sharp cry, her entire body flying backward like a kite with its string cut. She slammed heavily against the wall before sliding down to the floor. Clutching her stomach, she curled up in pain. Blood flowed steadily from her, seeping through her hospital gown. It stained the cold floor beneath her. You. She looked up at me with terrified eyes, as if staring at a demon. The agreement, you've already signed it. Yes, I signed it. I weighed the safe in my hands and handed it to Xiao Zhou, who was standing behind me, completely stunned. Then, I walked over to her and crouched down. I took a voice recorder out of my pocket. I pressed the play button. It played back all the conversations I had just had with her, from how she threatened me with the safe, to how she forced me to sign that unfair agreement. Clear and precise, word for word. Sumang, have you forgotten? I Turned off the voice recorder, looking at her face, twisted in pain and fear. Fraud and coercion are two different charges. Your actions just now have constituted the crime of maliciously coercing others to transfer property. Additionally, you previously colluded with Xiao Ran in an attempt to embezzle company assets. These multiple offenses will be punished cumulatively. Spend the rest of your life in prison, reflecting deeply on your wrongdoings. I stood up. From my pocket, I took out the so-called divorce agreement that had just been signed. In front of her, I tore it into pieces, bit by bit. Forgot to tell you, I scattered paper scraps on her face as if I were holding a premature funeral for her. The agreement I signed was written with my left hand, and I am right-handed. Legally speaking, a signature made with the non-dominant hand under duress is invalid. That is to say, we are not yet divorced. I, Lu Zhe, am still your one and only lawful husband, and you, along with that bastard in your belly, are still my legal property. Without my permission, you can't go anywhere, not even to death. 16. I personally sent Su Meng to the hospital, but not to save her, rather, to better control her. I booked an entire floor of VIP wards on the top level of the hospital, for 24 hours a day. The most professional caregivers and bodyguards I hired took turns watching over her. She was completely isolated from the outside world, no phone, no internet, not even a single newspaper to read. The only people she could have contact with were those I allowed. The only sounds she could hear were those I allowed her to hear. I hired the best obstetrician for her and used the best medicine to save the baby in her womb. I told the doctor to do whatever it takes to keep that baby safely in her womb, at the very least, before it fulfills its mission as evidence. Nothing must go wrong. I redecorated what used to be home for us. I converted the master bedroom into a one-to-one replica of a prison solitary confinement cell. There's a cold iron bed, a hard wooden board, and a small window that only serves as a meal slot. I told Su Meng that once she recovers a bit, that place will be her future new home. She will give birth to that bastard for me there. Then, she would spend the long, despairing remainder of her life. She completely fell apart. She began to starve herself, protesting with silence. Unfortunately, it didn't work on me. If she refuses to eat, the caregiver will pry open her mouth and force feed her one tube of nutritional supplement after another. She wants to harm herself, banging her head against the wall, clawing at her own skin. I had her put in a straitjacket and tied to the bed, leaving her without even the strength to move a finger. Lu Zhe, you're insane, a devil. She lay on the bed, like a fish out of water, gasping weakly. Kill me, please, just kill me, kill you. I sat by her bedside, slowly and deliberately peeling an apple. Su Meng, didn't I just say it? Death, for you, is a release. How could I let you escape so easily? I cut the peeled apple into small pieces, skewered one with a toothpick, and brought it to her lips. Be good, open your mouth, eat more for the sake of the children. Her eyes were filled with bloodshot veins and hatred. She clenched her teeth tightly, refusing to open her mouth. I wasn't angry either. I threw the apple into the trash can, took out my phone, and opened a video. In the video, it was Xiao Ran. He was cornered by several burly men in a dimly lit basement. He was beaten black and blue, kneeling on the ground, kowtowing and begging for mercy like a dog. Brother, I was wrong. I really have no money. Please, let me go. I'll work like a slave for you. Su Meng, look at this. I brought my phone screen closer to her eyes. This is the man you chose. This is what you thought was love. For him, you betrayed me, schemed against me, and even tried to kill me. Now, where is he? He's begging me to spare his life. I turned off the video and looked at her pale face. You know what? To save his own life, he made a deal with me. He said that as long as I let him go, he would tell me everything he knows about the doctor. He said, the doctor not only found you, but also gave you a condition you can't refuse. Su Meng's body suddenly trembled, her pupils contracted violently. That was the first time I saw an emotion on her face other than hatred, fear, a primal, instinctive dread emanating from the depths of the soul. Triggered by a single name. It seems it's true. I seized upon her fleeting moment of vulnerability, my voice turning icy. Su Meng, I'm giving you one last chance. What exactly did that doctor give you? What did he ask you to do? Her mouth was tightly shut, not uttering a single word, but his body trembled more and more violently, not saying anything. I smiled. It's all right, I have plenty of time and patience. I took out another phone and dialed Dad's number, then I pressed the speakerphone button. Dad, it's me, Ghost, how's it going on your end? The old man's voice remained steady, not going smoothly. I said, the doctor is far more cunning than we imagined. He used my woman, trying to get that inheritance from me. Now, my woman is in my hands, but her mouth is sealed tight. On the other end of the line, there were a few seconds of silence. Do you need me to send a cleaner over? Dad asked. You know the methods of the cleaner, even a stone can be made to speak. Cleaner. Upon hearing this name, Su Meng's body convulsed violently, as if struck by an electric shock. A fear 10 times stronger than before appeared in her eyes. She began frantically shaking her head, making a muffled, unintelligible mm sound. Seeing her reaction, I understood in an instant. She knew who the cleaner was. She might have even seen him, or rather, experienced his methods. No need. Old man. I turned off the speakerphone and said into the phone, I think she's ready to speak. 17. I hang up the phone. The entire ward is so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Su Meng lay on the bed, gasping for breath in great gulps, as if she had just been pulled out of the water. Sweat soaked her hair, sticking it tightly to her forehead. Her gaze had completely lost focus. The name, Cleaner, was like a key, unlocking the black box of fear buried deepest within her heart. Go ahead. I sat back down on the edge of the bed, my voice calm. Doctor, what did he give you? She looked at me, her lips trembling for a long time before she finally uttered a faint, almost inaudible sound. The antidote. Antidote. I furrowed my brow. What antidote? An antidote to a neurotoxin. Her voice sounded like a dreamy murmur. 3 years ago, when I first founded Dream Sea Technology, the funding chain broke, and the company was on the verge of bankruptcy. I begged everyone, borrowed money everywhere, but no one was willing to help me. Just when I was at my most desperate, the doctor found me. He said he could help me, give me money, resources, everything I wanted, but I had to do one thing for him. My heart sank. I seemed to have already guessed the ending of the story. He gave me a glass of wine. Su Meng's eyes became vacant. He said that the wine contained a specially crafted neurotoxin. It had no odor, no color, and could not be detected. The cycle of episodes is 3 years. Within 3 years, if I fail to complete the task he assigned, or if I attempt to betray him, I will slowly die in extreme agony. And the antidote, in the entire world, only he possesses it. The task he gave me is to get close to you, marry you, and gain your trust, then find that so-called legacy he mentioned, the one that can change the world's landscape. He told me that you, Ghost, are the person old man trusted the most. That legacy must be hidden in the place you least expect, yet the safest. I did it. She let out a bitter laugh. I became your wife. I made you fall in love with me. I made you let down all your guard around me. I spent 3 years turning every place by your side inside out, but I couldn't find it. That safe vanished without a trace, as if it had evaporated from the face of the earth, and the 3-year deadline is almost up. I started to fear. I was afraid I might die, so I found Xiao Ran. I thought, if I could have your child, perhaps you would tell me the whereabouts of the safe for the child's sake, or perhaps, even if you didn't know, the doctor would have given me the antidote on the grounds that I bore you a child. I thought that was my only way out, but I was wrong. I never imagined that you were completely infertile. Even more unexpected was that your so-called ordinary person identity was a complete deception from start to finish. You're not some mid-level manager at a foreign company. You're the cold-blooded Ghost, a lackey of the old man. You've destroyed everything I had. You've shattered my last hope. She suddenly grew agitated, shouting at me in a frenzy. Lu Jie, we are all pawns. We are all pitiful creatures being manipulated by them. Why are you still helping them? Why? I silently watched her face, flushed with agitation. I suddenly felt that she was pitiable, and also pathetic. She was like a marionette, pulled and struggled by 2 invisible forces, ultimately, helplessly heading toward destruction. And wasn't I the same? I thought I had escaped the past, but it turned out the past had never let go of me. So, that day at the company, when you announced Xiao Ran as your new husband, was that also arranged by the doctor? I asked the final question. Yes. She closed her eyes, a single tear of despair slipping from the corner of her eye. He said this is the last chance. He's using this method to force you out, to compel you to hand over the safe on your own. He said he knows you. You are an extremely proud and arrogant person. You absolutely cannot tolerate such public betrayal and humiliation. He bet that you would do whatever it takes to get the safe back. He was right. Yes, he was right. He not only accurately predicted my reaction, but also exploited Su Meng's despair, turning her into the most perfect time bomb. This bomb nearly destroyed me, and also completely destroyed her. What a brilliant doctor. What a brilliant move. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone and using a borrowed knife to kill. That list is also in that safe, isn't it? I looked at her and asked, word by word. This is the very core of the whole issue. Su Meng's body froze. She slowly opened her eyes, looking at me with the gaze one might reserve for a stranger. You don't know. I shook my head. Dad only told me that it was an inheritance. He told me to never open it. Su Meng suddenly burst into loud laughter. She laughed so hard she rocked back and forth, tears streaming down her face. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha, an inheritance? What a fine inheritance. Lu Jie, oh Lu Jie. You truly are the most pitiful fool in the world. You sold your life to him, killed for him, and bore everything for him. As a result, he treated you as a mobile, living safe. That so-called inheritance was never meant for you. It was his last escape route, left for himself. That list records all the organization's illegal fund flows and every piece of shady transaction evidence. Once Dad is in trouble, this list will be his last trump card to negotiate with governments around the world and save his own wretched life, and you are that loyal watchdog, entrusted with keeping this trump card for him. Her laughter pierced my heart like a sharp awl. I felt my world crumble to pieces in that very moment. 18. I don't know how I left the hospital. My mind was completely blank. Sumeng's laughter and her words echoed repeatedly in my ears, like an inescapable curse. Watchdog. The most pitiful fool. It turns out that the trust one thought I had was nothing more than a carefully orchestrated exploitation. The family I believed in was merely treating me as their most useful tool. My so-called washing my hands of the past, my so-called new life, has been nothing but a colossal joke from start to finish. I jumped from one cage into another, even larger one. Never, truly, have I been free. I returned to Cloudtop Villa. I opened that black, metal safe, without using a key or a password. I just smashed it open with my fist. That was the most useless, and yet most useful, skill I learned in the organization. In the box, there was no gold, no diamonds, only a small, black USB drive and a yellowed, old photograph. On the photo was a young man, holding a baby in his arms, smiling brightly. That man was a young version of the old man, and that baby, around his neck hung a silver longevity lock. On it was engraved a small character, Je. My hands began to tremble. I inserted the USB drive into the computer. Inside, there was only one encrypted file. I tried entering my birthday, my code name, my father's birthday, all wrong. Finally, as if guided by some unseen force, I typed in the handwritten date written on the back of that photo. The file opened. Inside was not some damned list. It is a complete record of my growth from birth to the present. Videos, photos, medical reports, report cards, every detail, everything you could ask for. At the end of the file is a video. In the video, it's Dad. He sits before the fireplace, looking somewhat aged and weary. He gazes into the camera, as if looking at me. Ghost? No, my child, Lu Jie, he said. When you see this video, it means you have already opened the box. It also means that I may no longer be here. I'm sorry, child, I lied to you. I'm not your old man. I am your biological father. 25 years ago, during the turmoil within the organization, your mother died at the hands of the doctor's father, the old doctor. While protecting me, to avenge you and to protect you, I had no choice but to send you to an ordinary family, so you could grow up like any normal person. I barely dare to acknowledge you, because I have too many enemies. I'm afraid they might hurt you, so I could only quietly watch over you from the shadows, recording every step of your growth, until the day I believed I was strong enough to bring you back to my side. I let you join the organization and become Ghost, because I wanted you to carry on my legacy. But I was wrong. I turned you into a weapon, yet I forgot that you are also my son. 5 years ago, you said you had met a girl you liked and wanted to leave the organization to live a normal life. I agreed, because I see your mother's shadow in you. I hope you can attain the happiness she never had. I entrust this safe to you. Inside lies the true inheritance I have prepared for you. It is neither money nor power, rather, it is all the proof that you are a human being, not a weapon. As for that list, the old man let out a bitter laugh. It does exist, but I hid it long ago. In another way, the doctor betrayed me. What he wants is not the list, but my position. The man told you about that woman, everything concerning the list. It was all just a lie, a despicable lie, designed to drive a wedge between us father and son, to make you doubt me, so that he could take advantage of the situation. Child, I don't have much time left. The doctor is more powerful than I imagined. He has already taken control of most of the organization. I'm entrusting this USB drive to you. Inside are the activation keys to all the wealth and connections I've accumulated over my lifetime. Also, it contains all the evidence of the crimes committed by the doctor and the vast network behind him. How you use it is entirely up to you. You can use it to avenge me and reclaim everything that belongs to us, or you can completely destroy it. Take the one you love and leave, never to return. No matter what choice you make, Dad will support you. The video ended. My face is already covered in tears. So this is the truth of everything. No betrayal, no exploitation, just a father, loving his son in his own clumsy and heavy way, and I, because of a woman's lies, nearly destroyed with my own hands this fatherly love that had arrived 25 years too late. I wiped away my tears and stood up. In my heart, there was a peace and clarity I had never felt before. I knew what I had to do. I dialed Xiaozhou's phone. Xiaozhou, get ready, tomorrow I'm going to hold a press conference that the whole world will be able to watch. The next day, Genesis Capital, press conference site, the flashing lights were like a sea of white. I stood in the center of the stage, facing the global media. I didn't waste a single word, I just inserted that USB drive into the main screen's port. Then, in front of everyone, I entered that password, known only to my father and me, on the big screen, began to play those crimes, enough to shake the entire world. Arms deals, drug networks, human trafficking, political assassinations, the doctor and the vast, evil empire behind him were stripped bare by me and exposed to the sunlight. The whole world was stunned. At the end of the press conference, I looked into the camera and spoke my final words. I, Luge, in the name of my father and myself, declare, from this day forward, all assets under Genesis Capital, totaling $1,300,000,000,000, will be donated. A global charitable foundation will be established, dedicated to rescuing innocent people harmed by war, poverty, and evil. After saying that, I turned and left. Behind me, the entire world was in shock and uproar, but I no longer cared. 3 months later, in River City, inside an ordinary coffee shop, I met Su Meng. She had lost weight, but her complexion was much better than before. She was wearing a simple maternity dress, with a slightly rounded belly. The child in her womb, under my arrangement, was adopted by a wealthy, infertile overseas family. She received a sum of money that would be more than enough to ensure a life of comfort without having to worry about food or clothing for the rest of her days. Her mother, Zhou Milan, due to issues found in her psychiatric evaluation, was released early and sent to a nursing home. Her younger brother, Su Yang, was also repatriated from the mining area in North Africa. Although he lost a leg, at least he survived. Thank you. She looked at me, her eyes devoid of both hatred and love. There was only a calmness, forged through the vicissitudes of life. You're welcome. I took a sip of coffee. Let's just put a period at the end of our absurd marriage. We smiled at each other, as if we were two old friends who had known each other for a long time. Outside the cafe window, the sunlight was just right. I saw a man in a trench coat and sunglasses raise his cup to me from afar at the street corner. It was the doctor. He was wanted globally, like a rat scurrying and hiding in the shadows, but he is still alive. I know, the game between us is not over yet, but this is already another story, and I, Luge, after experiencing all of this, finally understand, true strength is not measured by how much wealth one possesses, nor by how many lives one can control. Instead, it lies in the willingness to choose kindness, to let go, and to make peace with oneself. Even after seeing all the filth and ugliness in this world, I set down my coffee cup and walked out of the cafe. The sunlight shone on my face, very warm.